what is the product strategy? What's the purpose of it? It is to set direction for the team to achieve the company's vision. So I have two images here. If you're not a bit Lord of the Rings fan, then the first image, the dwarves are just lost in the Mirkwood forest. That's exactly what happens when you don't have a good product strategy. All the teams are going directionless in different direction because that is how they think that what the company wants. But by not having a strategy, everyone is going in different direction, but no one is able to reach the Blue Mountains. So by having a really strong product strategy, you make them in this how it is in the second image, where Bilbo Baggins just goes up the tree and looks at the Blue Mountain and says, okay, that's the direction we need to go to. And that's exactly what a strong product strategy does for a team. So how do you come to a product strategy, right? There are three very important elements to it. One is the building block, which is the basic foundation of the strategy. Then you also develop your strategy. Sometimes it's one strategy or multiple strategies that you need to do an option analysis for, which is what we did when we were starting with our product strategy. And then finally is the most important part for me for any companies, but especially for startups and growth companies, is the validation part. And I'm going to walk you through each and every one of these steps and also kind of highlight what were the challenges that we experienced and how we overcome that, and what was a lesson learned for us from this experience. So first, what is a building block? So it's basically all the different components that you really need to be able to put your product strategy together. Some of these components are probably already existing, or if you're a very new startup, you might have to build up many of these components. In a lot of existing companies, some of these components are existing but outdated and never kind of looked into what is the company vision now? Does it make sense from when it started? So I think these are good elements to have and re-question as well if you're working on your product strategy. So that's exactly what we started to do. I've shared the very strong company vision we have had from Bluecall from its inception in 2016 to now. And we still think that this is a very valid problem. Not everyone is happy at work. Number one reason for sickness is stress in Sweden, and also one of the top 3 reasons in Europe. So happiness is still related to mental health, and if there is mental health one of the biggest reason, we still think that we have a huge potential to make a lot of people happy by through providing them focus on their mental health. Secondly, the business goals, and this is where the company is trying to decide, okay, should we have a growth path? Should our goal is to grow? Should we be profitable? If we want to do a bit of both, which area of your business you want to be profitable and which area you want to grow has to be very, very clear. Because I have worked in organizations where the sales team is going towards growth, and then for the same product area, the product team is told to be operationally profitable, and they are always in conflict in terms of what is the business goal they're trying to achieve. So I really, really think that a strong cohesive product goal for a product area is very important. So the sales, the marketing, the operations, the product, they can all head towards that same KPI. And also when you're doing a product strategy, don't just look at the smaller adjustments. You might have to sometimes look into drastic changes. Is this really a goal? For example, one of the question that we had was, should part of our product strategy be increasing the number of sessions just as we have? And what would we gain from that? Would we be able to solve some of the problems for the users or the customers by doing that? Or should we completely get rid of digital therapies? So I think you should be very bold when you're doing the product strategy work to be able to question the status quo as well. But it's most important thing is to have a very cohesive direction in which you're going. Then if you have any product performances, that's really good to have, especially talking about like how successful your existing product had been, if the product is meeting the business goals or not. This kind of gives you an idea of if there are problems or patterns of problems, why the users are not using it, why the customers are not happy, and if you're not achieving the business goals. All these data really helps. And there are many cases in which the product performance is really not known. Then I would just say run some spikes or tests to just kind of understand where your product is at this given time. This is a really important part of the building block to be able to have a good data-driven strategy. It could be as simple as just sending a survey to your top customers telling, okay, are you happy with the product? What's missing? What's not missing? Sometimes it could be a simple start, but it's a great start. It's better to have data than to have no data. And then one of the other important part is the competition. Having a good understanding of where your competitors are, where they were before. Is your competition landscape has changed? Are you still advocatedly differentiated? For example, like for Bluecall, it was very relevant to ask this question. Okay, we wanted to give preventative healthcare and focus on digital because that is what the traditional provider not doing at that time in 2018. Is that still relevant? Is it still relevant to be digital? Is it still relevant to be preventative? Is it still relevant to be anonymous? Because those were our really value differentiating product at that time. Value differentiating USPs. Is that still relevant? And if they are still relevant, is the competition still doing it? Is that still differentiatingly relevant for us? I think we question all of those status quos as well, and seeing where our competitors were, and if we were still being uniquely different from rest of the providers in the market. And then what I encourage all the product people to do, especially when you want to look at things very differently. I think this mindset I got when I was working with Spotify during our collaboration when I was at Worldline. They said, like, I asked them one question, like it was just over some social event, and I just asked them like, who is your biggest competition? And then they were like, yeah, YouTube. And I was like, yeah, but they don't do any subscription. They were like, yes, but they are the one who are the closest to taking all the users from us. So just even if it's a free video streaming company, for a music streaming company, it was relevant to consider them as their one of the top competitors. And that has always made me think about looking a little bit outside the box. So who is our competition now? Are they still relevant? Are we differentiated? What are people doing in our closer markets, or the markets that we're likely to expand? Even if we have not expanded yet, we are likely to expand, or we would want to expand. What are people doing there? What are people doing in the world? But also, what are people doing in a similar field, like the mental health tech? What is the B2C trend? What are the drivers there? How things are changing? I think all of these information is very relevant. So don't look at your direct competitors, also look at indirect competitors, and what does that mean to your product strategy?